Hey there. So every time you have a project, I like to try to do a little video at the beginning of your career as a student, explaining the project a little bit. So our project here is not only about um, understanding typographic anatomy, it's also about understanding Illustrator, and so it gives us an opportunity to explore both. We're going to learn some of those basic tools in Illustrator, and we're also going to understand something that's really specific about typography that actually helps us talk about type and actually define if a type is working. For example, this is called a counter. It's also called an eye. And it's an I is specific to E, but it's a counter is actually in any enclosed shape. So if you were using a font, for example, and that was closing in, you might decide that you don't want to use that. And it's easy to say, oh, the E was, the I of the E was really closing in, or this counter was really closing in, it was making it really hard to read. So it helps us kind of define those little nuances that help us pick fonts, and fonts become really, really important. I'll always give you a project statement and then requirements. You can see that this is going to be an 8.5 by 11, black, white, and gray only, and that you are required to do ascenders and descenders, X height, cap height, mean line, baseline, but you're required to do 10 full labels. These are usually something that happens almost on every font, and so and they're also very key for us to be able to talk about them. So let's talk a little bit about how I might grade you. So one of the things that everybody wants is they want an A, right? So one key element that people often don't understand that defines whether something is an A or something else is concept. And just because you have a concept doesn't mean that you're going to be able to achieve an A. But concept is a huge element. There's also how well it's put together, that it fulfilled the guidelines. And so concept is not something that we'll be doing for every project, but it is certainly something that relates to this. And I'll try to break that down when I talk about the pieces and projects that you'll be doing here. So why does this have concept? Well, it adds another layer of interest when we're talking about typographic anatomy. She's created this little typographic cityscape, which, by the way, you're only allowed to use typography to kind of create your point. No images, you're not drawing. We're very much focused on making the type speak here in this project and not necessarily, pushing your drawing. The next project will very much be about drawing. So copper plate cityscape, and she's used that to diagram, and you can see that her labels are coming off, and then she's come out down here and done something else. Typography, so you can see that she's used typography in the title. You don't have to use type, but if it's appropriate, it's appropriate. So she's doing design DNA, and typography seems like a really appropriate thing to relate when you're talking about the DNA of type, right? So, and she's even created a little typographic DNA down here. So again, concept driven, well done. All of the things that were required of this assignment were in place, and visually interesting. She gets an A. This is another person, and I will say that I did allow them to do some mild drawing here, but there are pieces of typography embedded in this, so it is less than you think, but she's taken pieces of that type away so that it doesn't look like typography. So, again, a very almost, overly diagrammed, clean piece. This is the thing that keeps us interesting. Really nice stacking of typography, conceptually driven, gets an A. explore typography, the idea of maps, and buried treasure, right? So, totally gets an A. What isn't concept? So here's some ideas that are really interesting, but don't get an A. Engaging graphic design. Now, there's actually a really close concept that could have happened here. And I think we talked about it in the class. It looks very much like a musical score. And I think that could have easily been, taken care of if they had chosen. But it also, it didn't reach that idea of concept because they didn't make that concept happen through what they were labeling and the way that they approached the labeling. So it automatically was a B, even though it was well done. Rabid Panda. Again, I love the softness. There's like a little cloud thing happening here. I love the kicked R. It's beautifully done. It's interesting. It's engaging. It doesn't have a concept that says anything about, the world around us. There's not that second layer. It's an interesting thing to label, and it's interestingly labeled, so it immediately gets a B. The other thing that I show you is examples of sketches. And so these are examples of sketches. You can see that they have, and this person would automatically be getting a B. And I let you know that when I am evaluating your sketches. Hey, if you want to get an A, you're going to have to push these and get a concept in order. And in that case, you might want to come back and watch this video. So you can see that they're just labeling type. They're doing it in an engaging way. They've shown me different ways of doing some things, although they are relying sometimes on the division, this cell division a little bit too much, but still engaging. You're going to be doing, I believe, let's check on the number. You're going to be doing, you know what? We have to go into the sketches to find out how many you're going to do. You're going to be doing 10 sets of sketches. So this is actually the sketching place where you're going to post it. And so that's where you find out how many sketches you'll post. So you can see that they have, how many did they have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, so you need 10 full sketches, and they need to be pushing those boundaries. They should not overlap in any way, shape, or form. They should be very, very different every time I see them. You're going to be posting these up to the classroom, to this. And the reason why we're going to have already talked about in class, so you'll already have an understanding of that. All right, thank you. Bye.